So I've gotten a lot of questions from guys at agencies all over the country, and a few outside the country too, regarding where I work, how our firearms program is structured. I've gotten questions as small as like, hey, when do you introduce this concept? Or how do you introduce X concept? Some of the questions are bigger, like, what does your red dot transition program look like, going to irons, from irons to red dot? And I've even had like big questions like, what does your entire recruit program look like? How do you start them out? How long is it? Can I have your whole curriculum? And the answer to all of those was yes. Like, I'll talk through all of it. I'll be happy to send you the information. And I've done that. But all of those were like one-on-one conversations, which I was super happy to have. But I thought it would be nice to come on here and make some videos about some of the more common questions I've got, talk through those pieces, and kind of make that more accessible to everybody. So the beginning, like the first question is usually like, hey, why is practical shooting the best foundation for law enforcement? Like, why should it be different than whatever we're using? And I will say that the training practical shooting is not necessarily training for competition. They can be the same thing, but they don't have to be. Just because you're training practical shooting does not mean you're training people to play the game of USPSA or IPSC or PCSL. Competitions are a great test of hard skills. Like, it's a great way to go in and get a snapshot in that moment of where you're successful, like what you're good at, where your deficiencies are, especially considering it's a problem or a series of problems that someone else set up. It's a very objective test with a score at the end and a metric, and you get racked and stacked against a bunch of other people. Very valuable, but not always necessary and not the only use for practical shooting. So there's a lot of reasons I like practical shooting for a base around like a law enforcement program or any type of program where you're training folks to be armed professionals. One of the big pieces is that it has a time component built into its DNA. Practical shooting at its base is forcing you to balance speed with accuracy. It's not just an accuracy component. It's not just how accurate can you be. It's like, no. How accurate can you be while also being as quick as you can be? Why does that matter? Well, armed confrontations are time competitive competitions, and the training for those events should reflect that. And shooting, training in a practical manner for practical shooting develops shooters who can shoot very, very quickly with high accountability, which is the gold standard for any type of like armed conflict. You want to be as accurate as you can, as fast as you can. Practical shooting does it with what's called hit factor scoring. And you don't have to do all like hit factor scoring for everything. They use it in the competitions for like USPSA and IPSC. And you can use it in some drills too, but it's not required all of the time. But it's important to understand where it comes from so you can kind of get the gist of it. Hit factor is nothing more than adding up all the points you scored on however many targets you shot and then dividing it by how long it took you to score those points. So it's points divided by time. Why is that such a big deal? Well, like we talked about earlier, most law enforcement type qualification systems or like assessments for special unit selections, they've got a fixed accuracy standard. Like, all the bullets have to be inside this scoring zone and you have to do it in less than X seconds. But there's no push, there's no benefit to being faster. So essentially, as long as you can meet that time standard while maintaining the accuracy standard, you've arrived. You pass. There's no push to do it better, to be faster. And with hit factor, there's no max ceiling. There's no top end. You can always be a little faster. And then once you're faster, it's like, well, I dropped some points when I was faster. So it's like, I got to keep that speed and get all the points. And then once you get all the points at that speed, you're like, well, now I could probably be a little faster. But then when you go a little faster, you drop some more points. And so it's this continuous, like, one step forward, another, then I drag my accuracy up. Then maybe I'm a little bit faster, but I got to drag my accuracy up. It's like one step, and there's no top end. There's no max ceiling there. And with no max ceiling, like no potential best or perfect score, it's always pushing the shooter on a journey to get a little better. It's never ending. Rather than kind of arriving at a passable score or like, I'm good enough. Why is that a big deal? Well, it brings me to kind of this analogy that I stole from Chris Palmer over at Staccato. And it's called the skill bank analogy. If we think of every time we go and train and develop our skill, we're putting a little bit of money into our skill bank and we're building up that bank account. We want that bank account to be as big as possible. because every bad guy out there that like we end up in a shooting with, he represents some sort of like monetary denomination of a problem. So you've got $1.50 bad guys, you got $3 bad guys, you got $5 bad guys, whatever. So if you're walking around and you meet a $1.50 bad guy and you have enough skill in your bank account to cash that $1.50 check, boom, no problem, you got this. The problem is that a lot of cops under kind of like legacy programs have developed like what they think is an adequate level of skill. So a $1.50 bad guy comes along, bang, they're in that shooting, they win, they're like, hell yeah, I cashed that $1.50 check. But what they don't realize is they had $2 in their bank account. So they were barely able to cash that $1.50 bad guy. What if that $1.50 bad guy was a $10 bad guy? Well, now we got a serious problem. So by training with this like no max ceiling, I'm always putting a little more money in that skill bank. I always want to be a little bit better. I want to be a little faster and a little more accurate. We continually build that skill bank up because we don't know what the dollar value denomination of that bad guy we're going to meet tomorrow is. So that if we run into a $15 bad guy, I got $30 in my bank account. And if I got $30 in my bank account and I run into a $1.50 bad guy, easy day. If I got $30 in my bank account and I run into a $15 bad guy, easy day. That's the general idea behind practical shooting training is like we're continually forcing that envelope further and further forward. Like there's never a good enough. I always need to be a little better. I can always be a little better because I never know if I've got enough skill in my bank account to cash the next check that's coming. Practical shooting training also most closely resembles what our critical incidents look like, what our events look like. And so it encourages folks to train in a manner that is kind of compatible with what our shootings look like. There's not going to be somebody standing next to you saying, okay, your bad guy's at 10 yards. In a moment, he's going to draw his gun. You will have 6 seconds to draw and fire 4 rounds center mass before he goes away. That's just not how things work. But that's the way a lot of law enforcement training is structured. Practical shooting instead encourages like individual self-awareness, individual self-evaluation of, can I make the shot from where I'm at? And if I can't, where do I need to get to so that I can? And then it's like, okay, well, from where I'm at, what kind of sight confirmation and how quickly can I shoot? How much information do I need from my sights to guarantee hits given the target difficulty and distance? And then like it also encourages like ongoing evaluation and decision making during the shooting, like checking in with my sights. Is my gun doing what I want it to? Am I being effective? Are my bullets going where I want? Do I need to make a change in either my position or my sight confirmation or the pace of my shooting? Do I need to change something in order to change the outcome of what is happening? Practical shooting also stresses movement in a way that is movement for a purpose rather than movement to check a box on a string for an evaluation or a qual. It's not like, hey, you're going to walk from the 7-yard line to the 5-yard line while firing 2 rounds on the move. It's like, no, practical shooting movement is you're moving for a purpose. You need to get to another place. And then if you're shooting on the way, like it is, can I make those shots moving at a speed that makes the movement matter? Or it's aggressive movement and then arriving with the gun up ready to shoot in a way that we would want to do if we were in an engagement on the street. So practical shooting, the skills that it develops most closely resemble the skills that will be needed in a encounter that we might face, like in a critical incident. And then lastly, like it's fun. Practical shooting is just more fun. Well, like who cares? It's training. It's not supposed to be fun. I disagree. Does it all have to be fun? No. But if it could be more fun than it is right now, why wouldn't we want to make it more fun? Everybody learns more, and the learning is stickier. It stays with the students more, and they're interested longer, and they train better, and when they enjoy what they're doing. So if we can make shooting more fun and make the training more fun, because being dynamic and running around and shooting in those in that type of a fashion is a lot more fun than standing on a line, like shoot 1, reload, shoot 2 to center mass, or draw. You're going to get a click, fail to fire, fix it, step right, fire 2. Like being dynamic and doing a dynamic type of shooting is always going to be more fun than standing on a line, fixing malfunctions, or shooting rote strings of fire. And so there's more learning that occurs because everybody's having a lot more fun. So, I hope that's helpful. If you got more questions, like I said, there'll be more videos coming up. But if you got more questions, just put them down below. Take care.